Hi, this is a lesson for all Year 11 classes. This is the pre-recorded lesson for Wednesday, the 3rd of March 2021. Today's focus is Paper 1, Section B, which is the creative writing element, and this is our fourth walking, talking mock. So today we're going to focus on narrative writing, and we're going to look at going beyond the obvious in the exam. So for example, if you were confronted with this image, it would be looking for something where this individual is not terribly upset, is not contemplating a really massive decision. So instead you might be concentrating on the fact that this young person has successfully trekked to this lake over the hills. Okay, it's looking for something less obvious. You'll need for today's lesson something to write on, something to write with, and something to time yourself with. So question 5, as you are aware, is assessed for 2 assessment objectives. They are AO5 and AO6. For AO5, you need to keep this in mind. Try to think of inventive ideas and different ways of looking at things. The more original your idea, the more likely it is to be engaging. Original does not mean it has to be outlandish or unbelievable. Use what you've learnt about structure of an extract from question 3 to help structure your own writing. Plan your answer to help you with organisation and cohesion. Leave yourself some time to edit at the end. Your responses should not be lengthy. Work on creating a shaped and structured response in 2 to 3 sides. 3 sides is really a maximum. A contrived use of senses will limit what you can achieve. So if you write things such as I can see, I can hear, I can smell, I can taste, that's going to limit your writing. Although inclusion of the senses is really important, setting it out in that way isn't going to be successful. Ambitious vocabulary is encouraged, but it's really important that you understand the words that you're using and that they're contextually appropriate. If you are doing a piece of writing, continually right-clicking and going to the synonym section isn't going to help you improve your grade. In fact, it's likely to lower your grade if you're selecting words that do not make sense or are not contextually appropriate to what you're writing. With regards to AO6, you need to make sure that you use a variety of sentence forms, that you understand comma splicing and how to correct it, that you punctuate any dialogue that you're using correctly, and that you also understand how to use apostrophes and use those correctly. If you can do those things, then you're going to be hitting the criteria for a range of accurate punctuation and sentence demarcation. You can see here that you are assessed on your content and organisation and the use of style and language devices. You're then also assessed for your use of spelling, punctuation and grammar, and your vocabulary and spelling. So I just want you to do a little bit of thinking for a moment. I want you to imagine that the image on this screen is the image that you're given in an exam. And the question says, a magazine has asked for contributions for their creative writing section. Write the opening of a story set in an isolated place, or write a description of an isolated place based on this image. Now, this image can be your stimulus image for either of those tasks, okay? When it says write the opening of a story set in an isolated place, you can use that image to springboard from, or you can create your own image. When it says write a description of an isolated place based on that image, it doesn't have to be that exact image. So for example, if you want it to be this setting, but in a thunderstorm, that's okay. If you want it to be this setting, but in 100 years' time in a zombie apocalypse, that's fine. If you want it to be that setting, but 100 years in the past, and imagine that it's full of people traveling to mine for gold in San Francisco, That's also fine, okay? You can be as creative as you need to be, but look for something that you can do that you can springboard from. If you have a particular genre of writing that you're really good at or that you know really well because of your own reading, use that to influence your creative writing. If you've never read a love story in your life, then writing a really traditional romance story may not be the appropriate thing to do. So really think carefully about what it is that you want to achieve. So your first task, and you're going to need to pause the video here and have a read of the extract from The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilmore. Pause now. So welcome back, Year 11. That's an example of how a writer in 1899 started a story to create a real sense of the place that we find her. Look at the way that this opening paragraph starts. The most beautiful place, exclamation point. It is quite alone, comma, standing well back from the road, comma, quite 3 miles from the village, full stop. It makes me think of English places that you read about, for there are hedges and walls and gates that lock, and lots of separate little houses for the gardeners and people. We've got a range of sentence types already. We've got a short sentence, we've got a sentence with a subordinate clause or a drop-in clause, and then we've got an extended complex sentence, which also includes an asyndetic listing. That's the repetition of and. So I want you to think about how you can use some of these techniques from your reading, from your preparing for this paper, to inform your own writing. So you're going to need to choose now which of these 2 tasks you're going to have a go at, and then we're going to walk our way through it. We're going to do some slow writing to start with, and then you're going to continue the rest on your own. So firstly, I want you to remember that planning is really important. If you plan properly, it's going to help you have an idea of the thoughts, feelings and contrasts within the image. You're going to have time to think about introducing a motif, and then you're also going to be able to think about the way that you drop into the action, you shift from one end to the other, you zoom out, you leave, okay? All of these elements are going to be really key. So Year 11, I'd like you to pause your video in just a second, and I want you to write down as many ideas as you can for each of those boxes. Pause now. Okay, welcome back, Year 11. So you've got your plan set out now. This should give you a really clear idea of what you need to move on to do. And so we're going to have a go as a timed piece of writing in terms of you keeping up with me. You're going to write the drop-in to your piece. Sorry, you're going to write the drop into your piece of the creative writing. You're going to place your reader immediately in the action of this narrative, and you're going to introduce your motif. Now, your motif may be any number of things. It may be that long winding path that you see in front of you. It may be the mountain. It may be the clouds. It may be the trees, the gravel underfoot. It doesn't matter what the motif is, as long as you recognise what it represents and how you're going to use it. So we're going to work through this sentence by sentence. You're going to place your reader straight into the action, and your first sentence must start with a present participle. That's a verb ending in ing, and it will introduce your motif. Off you go. So I'm going to give you about 45 seconds to a minute to write each of these sentences. You can obviously pause this if you need longer. Your second sentence needs to only be 3 words in length. Your third sentence must contain a semicolon to introduce an additional clause. Your fourth sentence, Year 11, needs to contain a contextually relevant and non-cliched simile. What I mean by that is I don't want to hear that the man was as quiet as a mouse. I don't want to hear that the clouds opened and it rained like cats and dogs. Okay, I want a non-cliched, contextually relevant simile. Sentence number 5 needs to be the start of a new paragraph, and it must contain either speech properly demarcated with speech marks or make reference to a sound. So your fifth sentence will be the start of your second paragraph. It must contain speech or a sound. Off you go. Your sixth sentence will contain a subordinate clause in the form of a dropping clause. That means you've got a comma either side of the subordinate clause you're introducing.
Incoming call from 07.
Your seventh sentence needs to start with a word beginning with L, and the sentence in general needs to refer to your motif again. Remember, if you're using an adverb or an adjective beginning with L, that's fine, but you need to make sure that the rest of the sentence continues to make sense. Your 8th sentence needs to start with an adverb, and that adverb needs to be used to describe the air. Your 9th sentence needs to contain some personification. Your 10th sentence needs to have 17 words and include a colour. Your final sentence is going to be the start of a new paragraph. So start a new paragraph and your final sentence needs to be just one word. You are creating a single word paragraph to manipulate the use of structure. Okay guys, so I want you to spend the next 15 minutes now working at your own pace to continue your work. You're going to need to start the video, watch the next bit, then pause and continue. As you're selecting your language, I want you to think really carefully about the effect that you want it to have on the reader. So I want you to pause the video now and I want you to spend 5 minutes writing your shift paragraph. Okay, that's that section completed. Now I want you to complete your zoom in section. Again, spend 5 minutes. Please pause the video. Welcome back again, Year 11. This is the final section. You're going to zoom out, give us an idea of the big picture before leaving or linking back to the beginning. So once again, 5 minutes writing time. Pause now. And welcome back, Year 11. So you've now written a really good chunk of writing. In the exam or any sort of testing conditions, obviously your teacher isn't going to be able to offer you that feedback. You therefore need to be doing your own editing and your own redrafting. There are 6 questions on the screen in front of you. I want you to use those 6 questions to go back through your writing now and to make any changes. So if, for example, your simile doesn't have the desired effect when you look at it, I want you to edit that simile so it does make sense. So if you can pause the video, please, and have a read through of those questions and make corrections. Okay, Year 11, that is the end of our pre-recorded lesson today. I hope you've all written some masterpieces. Do have a look at the uploaded files for my example. Thank you very much. Goodbye.